Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of 3D prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas. In the last episode we built ourselves an elevator, which is awesome. It really helps us in our map and level designs. Building something like the elevator gives us access to new areas that we can't necessarily reach simply through jumping. So we're going to move forward now. We're only building one enemy in this game. We are building, this is supposed to be a zombie shooter. That's my original idea, a zombie shooter that I was going to call Relentless. And the idea behind it was that once the zombies were triggered, they would keep coming after you until you either killed them, they killed you, or they fell off the map. That was it. That was the only options we have. They just kept coming. So we're going to start building those enemies today. Now, I think that this is going to be a fairly lengthy section. We've got a lot to do in the zombies. We've got a lot of different things that I'd like to cover. So we're going to start off simply by building ourselves our animation and that kind of thing, starting to build ourselves our assets. We'll do a quick review on the actual enemy that we're going to be creating. And after that, guys, we'll have the enemy done and start to be able to really put this game together. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off really simply with this zombie. There's a lot of different things that we need to do. I'm not going to go over the actual creation of the animation or anything like that. Again, we can take a really brief look at it here. I'm going to go into Models. I'm going to go into Zombie, and I'm going to take a look at the animations that I have designed. There's only 4 of them. Now, once again, this creature was designed in a 3D package. All the animation, all the rigging, and everything was done inside the 3D packaging. The texturing, everything was done in a 3D package. I then imported it into Unity. You can look at one of the earlier episodes we did about importing your character into Unity, and you're going to do exactly the same thing with the zombie. I broke up the zombie into 4 different animations, and I think ultimately I only used 3 of them. The zombie idle goes from frame 1 to frame 99. The zombie walk goes from frame 101 to 125. The zombie run goes from 126 to 140. And the zombie attack goes from 141 to 149. Now, ultimately, I don't think I ever used the zombie attack. We just set it up so that if the zombie runs into you, you take damage. That's how we ultimately did it, which is fine for a prototype game like this. The idle is looped, the walk is looped, the run is looped. All right, the attack is not, but we don't care anyway. So you guys should go through, if you don't remember how to do that, go back to one of the earlier episodes. I don't remember what it was called. I'm sure it was called something like importing 3D animated characters into Unity. Go back and watch that episode. You're going to follow the exact same techniques to import your zombie character or your enemy character into Unity itself. All right, so let's start off really simply here. We're going to start off by dragging our zombie onto the actual play area. All right, whoop boop. Let's put him right there. Ultimately, we're going to have him at z equals 0, so he's in line with our character. Now that's going to be extremely important. In fact, you know what? Let's move him way over here. He's ultimately going to be at z is equal to 0, and that is because we want him to run into our player character, all right? If he's not on the same line as our character, then we're never going to actually meet, and we want that to happen. We're going to rotate our character right now 90 degrees, and he'll be always facing in this direction to start off with. We're going to use the same flipping techniques that we did with our character as well. And ultimately, we're going to run into some problems because of that. We're going to run into a few different issues, especially when we actually kill this character off. When we actually kill off the zombie, we're going to run into some issues. Later on, when we create our zombie death, we're going to create a ragdoll system, and matching the rig of the ragdoll to the rig of the actual model here is difficult when I've got a negative scale. And once again, I could have gone back and redone the entire concept of this, and I ultimately decided not to. I mentioned in one of the earliest episodes that we had a problem. Not that I had a problem, that I had chosen to do the flipping of the character in the same way that I did in the 2D package, just to kind of follow along in the same concept. It's not normally done like that. Normally you'd rotate a character or a creature or whatever, rotate them in order to have them go in the other direction. I didn't do that, all right? I was lazy about it. I only have animation for one side, and I wanted to make sure that I was still getting the same good view of my enemy, regardless of which direction he was facing. So I went with the flipping technique. Oops, I dropped something, sorry. I went with the flipping technique, and ultimately it caused some issues when we create our ragdoll. But we're not going to worry about that for now. For now, guys, what we are going to do is create our asset. All right, and this is going to take a little while. We're not going to go through at this time, and even you can go through if you want to, and you can actually add onto your zombie if you want to, on the zombie soldier. We can go in here and we can actually add our texture. And let's go in here and take a look. Where's our right here? We can go and we can choose one of these zombie textures that I've included here. Ultimately, we're going to randomize our zombie textures so that we are getting a constantly different looking zombie. All right, so we'll just put that on there for now. We don't care about it. It doesn't really matter exactly how it looks. We're going to change it later on. All right, so to start off with, we're going to need a number of different things on the top level of our zombie. First of all, let's go back to our top level. First of all, on the top level, we've already set up our facing and that kind of stuff appropriately within the transform itself, and that's great. We now have to add a couple of different things. We're going to need to add a couple of different things. The first thing I want to add is a rigid body. So this character, in exactly the same way as our actual player character, is going to be affected by physics. All right. All I did is go to physics and add a rigid body. We're not going to really change anything else on the rigid body right now, all right, except for the constraints. I want to add a number of different constraints. I want to constrain this character on the Z, and that way they can't move in the Z direction. I don't want them to. I want them to stay on the same line as the actual character. And I'm going to freeze my rotations in all three axes, X, Y, and Z. All right, great. The next thing we need to do to define this character is add a collider of some kind that's going to define the hitbox of our actual character. Once again, add component, physics, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a capsule collider. And the capsule collider itself, we're going to put in some numbers in here. This is going to be 0.85, and the Z center is going to be at -0.09. And I just know that from doing this previously, all right? The radius itself is going to stay 0.5. It's got a good radius on it. But the height is going to change to 1.7. Now, those numbers might sound familiar, and they should, because it's the same numbers as we had for our original player character. This model is based off of the character itself, the same player character. Everyone in this world apparently looks the same. The only thing that changes is their texture. All right, so far, so good. So we've got our hitbox defined for this character, and we have our rigid body defined. There's a couple of other things that I want to add immediately to this character, and that is add component, and I'm going to add an audio source. All right, this character is ultimately going to make noises, and we're gonna set up several different audio sources. In fact, this audio source here, the one where we're defining our hitbox, is going to contain. Let me open it up. Is going to contain an audio clip called Melee, and I think I called it Melee. Fire, garage door, Melee hit. Ultimately, I'm going to have it Melee hit. And basically, because I'm using this portion of the character to define its hitbox, whenever this thing takes damage, it's going to play the sound Melee hit. All right, so whenever it takes either damage from being hit or from being shot or hit by the character in Melee. And I'm going to change this thing here immediately to a 3D sound. So I'm going to move this all the way across to 3D. And once again, I'm going to set it up as 20. I'm going to have it zeroed at 20. And I'm going to dump several of these. I'm going to dump you. I'm going to dump you. And I'm going to dump... not you. I'm going to dump you. All right. And we're going to arrange these slightly different. I'm going to move this across to around... I don't know, to around there. We'll test that out later, make sure that the sound is okay. And the drop-off's going to be like that. Let's just adjust these a little tiny bit. That's a little bit too much of a drop-off. I'm going to drag this up a little. Just like that. Something like that's going to be fine. That's gonna be how I want it to sound. That way, if we're distant from the gun itself, we're not going to hear the splat noise that we're going to make with our actual audio source. Okay, next what we want to do is we want to create an empty child. And we're going to rename this empty child Zombie Damage. I think that's what we'll call it. Zombie Damage. And the Zombie Damage is located obviously under the zombie itself. And what we're going to use zombie damage for is to cause damage to our player. And we've already have a number of different things set up to be able to do this. First of all, I'm going to add components. And I'm going to add a physics, and I'm going to add a sphere collider. And once again, we're going to adjust the sphere collider so it's centered at, let's say, 0.73, 0.75, something like that. And we'll give it a radius of 1. And basically what this is going to do, this collider itself, it's a trigger. What this collider is going to do is it's going to be the area that damages our character. All right, so whenever our character comes within this radius, we're going to cause damage. And luckily, we've already got that done. So I'm going to say add component. I'm going to go into my scripts, and I'm going to find the enemy damage. All right, there's my enemy damage. And let's just give it some numbers from now. Let's say 5. It does 5 damage. Damage rate of 1, let's say, and a pushback of 10. All right, so basically now we've got this thing set up so that our enemy can damage our player. And that's great. It can't move or anything right now, but we can already damage our player. Now, I'm going to go back up to zombie, and I'm going to create a brand new empty child again. And this time I'm going to call this zombie detection. And the zombie detection is going to be the area in which the zombie itself detects our player. Okay? So the zombie itself is going to detect our player within a certain zone. So the first thing I have to add, obviously, add component, is a physics. I'm going to add a box collider this time here. And the box collider is going to be a long, skinny box collider. So let's put this at, 1.9. That's pretty good, right around the neck somewhere. I'm going to make it a little bit wider just to make sure we don't miss our character. So I'll make it too wide. And I'm going to make it pretty long. So if anyone comes within, let's say, 12, then our character is going to be detected. This is our aggression zone. Let's call it that, our aggression zone. So whenever the player comes within the aggression zone, the zombie itself is going to start moving and start attacking. So that's kind of cool. We're also going to add to this a couple of things. We're ultimately going to add a zombie controller in here, and the zombie controller is going to affect how and when the character moves, when the zombie moves. But I'm going to add a few other things to it. I'm going to add in the zombie controller, in the script, I'm going to add an additional, a little bit of additional stuff here. I'm going to add some idle sounds so that we've got some noise to our zombies. They're not just standing around. All right, so the first thing I'm going to add component, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a brand new audio source. All right, and this time we're not going to put any kind of audio clip in here. It's just going to be blank for now. And I'm going to make sure that once again we've got ourselves a 3D sound. Let's put this to 20. Let's move this across to somewhere around 5, like that. Let's move this down to 0, and let's dump a number of these. Dump. Dump. And let's move this guy to the other side. Alright, so we're getting a nice drop off here. Bring this down a bit. I'm sure there's some way to standardize this. I'm a little bit too lazy to look it up. I'm sure there is, guys. Alright, so I'm just going to put that right about there. And put this right about here. So we've got ourselves a nice drop off. So ultimately what I'm going to use this for, this audio source, is going to be used to make idle noises. So whenever our character's standing around, it's going to make a number of idle sounds. All right, and now we have a fair amount of coding to actually do. Actually, there's a couple of things I just want to make sure. Our top level, our zombie itself, should be labeled as a couple of different things here. So let's just click it, and let's go to the very top. Our top layer should be in the shootable. Only this object. We want to make sure that our main hit area is actually shootable. All right, so the only thing that's actually affecting right now is the actual collider that we added in here, the capsule collider. All right, that's the shootable area of our character. That's his hitbox. As well, I want to make sure I come in here, and I don't have it yet, so I want to add a new tag. And I'm going to list my tags. This list is empty. Boom. My new tag is going to be enemy. All right, and go back to my zombie now. And now I'm going to tag this creature as enemy. All right, so something that's shootable and an enemy is going to be able to be shot and destroyed. All right, it's going to have some kind of hit points associated with it, and you would do the same thing. Before we made a tank trap here, but we didn't make it shootable. Sorry, we made it shootable but not destroyable. If you wanted to make destroyable terrain or something like that, destructible terrain, then you'd go through and we're going to tag everything that we want to be able to be shot and destroyed after a certain amount of hits as an enemy. All right, and obviously that's what we want to do with our actual zombie. The other layers, I think we can leave the other layers exactly as they are for now. We're not going to worry about them at all. I did say detection was a trigger, right? No, I didn't. Make sure that in the zombie detection, I should have done this right away. Zombie detection is a trigger, all right? The box for the zombie detection. That, like I said, is where the character has to walk inside. And if it's not a trigger, the character can't walk inside. It'll be held out at bay. Okay? All right, so far, so good. Like I said, I want to take this very slow, so I'm going to end this episode off with a little bit of code. Some of you are dreading that, but we're going to end it with a little bit of code. On the zombie soldier. So the zombie soldier right now is the layer that was immediately under zombie. Underneath that is the master. So zombie is the main heading. Master's underneath that. Master is a complete rig breakdown. All right, that's a complete rig breakdown, exactly the same as it was with our character. Underneath that is the zombie soldier, which was the name of this actual model originally, zombie soldier. It had a number of things associated with it. It had a transform, great, we can move it around. We talk about our skinned mesh renderer here, great. We're not going to worry too much about that. And we actually talk about the texture that we're using for our soldier. And that's all we've really got in there right now. What I do want to add right now, add component, we're going to add a brand new script. New script. And we're going to call this, script, how about randomize zombie look? No, appearance. All right, randomize zombie appearance. And basically, what I want this it's going to be a very simplistic script. I opened up in the wrong location. Let me drag it over. It's going to be a very simplistic script. All I really want this script to do is to have a listing of a number of textures. All right, let me move this out of the way for a second. I've got a number of textures here I designed. Let's go down to our textures. I've got a number of textures I designed here, and this is how I randomize the actual zombies in the game. Instead of changing the model, which you could have done as well, instead of changing the model, all I do is I give it a random texture. So that way, no two zombies are going to be, well, I guess some will be alike, but there's a good chance that the ones that are standing immediately next to each other will not look exactly the same. Okay? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different textures. Okay, so let's go back to our code. In the code, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to add a public variable. And this is a public array. So it's going to be a public, material. And it's an array. So you put 2 brackets like that. Let's back it up. 2 brackets like that to indicate this is an array, which means that there's more than one. This is a container that's going to hold a number of different materials. All right. And let's just call this zombie materials. Semicolon. All right, and all I really want to happen is on start. All right, on start, when this character first loads up, all I want to happen is to assign a very particular material to our zombie. All right, one of the random 7 materials. So we're going to be looking for, it's going to be our skinned mesh renderer, and if I move this out of the way again, if we take a look at our zombie shoulder, we have our skinned mesh renderer right here, and our skin mesh renderer has on it the ability to set up the material. So right now we're set up as zombie soldier texture. All right. So let's go back here for a minute. We're going to look for our skinned meshed renderer, and we're going to actually find that. So we're just going to call it my renderer. And my renderer is going to be equal to get component. And when we find it, we'll be able to change that actual texture out, that actual material out. So we're looking for a skinned mesh renderer. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so just like we've done in the past, we use the get component to go in and find the component we're actually looking for. Afterwards, all we're going to do is simply change my renderer dot material. All right, we're just going to change the material to equal to our zombie materials. All right, and it's going to be a random one of these. All right, it's going to be a random one of the zombie materials. So I want to pick from a random range, random dot range, and it's going to be a range between 0, because arrays start at 0. They go, so if you have 10 items in your array, they'll go from 0 to 9. Okay, that's how they work here. So we're going to go from 0, so choose between from 0 to the length of the entire array. So zombie, not that. What did I call it? I call it zombie materials. Zombie materials. Dot length. Drawing a complete blank. Dot length. All right, and that's going to basically look through the entire length of the actual. Why is this giving me? Oh, I see why. Of the entire thing. All right, square bracket and semicolon. All right. So that's basically what we're going to do there. We're going to set it to a random thing. Now, we actually have to go through and build. Let me file save this. We actually have to go through and build our materials, because at this time we don't actually have any. So let's do that. Okay, so you guys have already built materials a dozen times. All I'm going to do is go in my materials folder, and I'm going to say create, and I'm going to say create material. And we're going to change the name of this to zombie material A. All right, that's what I'll call it, zombie material A. I'm going to go through and change the albedo. That's all I'm changing on this. Albedo. Go down and find my first zombie texture. And I'm going to turn the smoothness way down, just like that. And I'm going to go through and do that. Let me do one more. I'm going to go through and do that. Create material. And we're going to call it zombie material B. I'm going to go through and do that for each and every one. And I have a total of, let me see, I have a total of, I think I said 7. Let me see. Nope. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I'm going to grab number 2 here. And I'm just going to go back and do that for each and every one. All right, guys, I'll be back as soon as it's done. Okay, so I've created my 7 different zombie materials here. Great. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go on to our actual zombie soldier right here, where we have the script. And you can see that right now we've got zombie materials. And right now there's nothing in here. If I take, I think I can grab them all. Let's see. If I grab them all and I can't do that. What am I doing? What am I doing? I have to lock it first. Let's go back to zombie soldier. And we're going to drag this down. And we're going to lock this. That little lock up there means I can click other things and I won't lose it. I'm going to grab these ones here. I'm going to drag these things here and drop them on my zombie materials. All right. When I do, and I'm going to unlock this now. When I do, go back to my zombie. When I do, you can see that what I've got in here now, in my zombie, randomized zombie appearance, I've got 7 textures, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right? It doesn't really matter what order they go in. If you want them to go in a particular order, make sure you drag them in one at a time. Okay? I don't really care what order they go in. There's an equal chance of having any one of them. Okay, now, if I hit play, boom, my zombie material, you can see this time here, my zombie is blue. When I hit play this time, my zombie is white. If I hit play again, my zombie is purple. All right, guys. So that way, what I've done by creating the additional materials for my zombie is I'm able to randomize the look of my zombie for the entire game. All right. And I think that's what we're going to call this an episode. My last few episodes have been pretty long, and I don't want them to be. So guys, in the next episode, we will continue on by building our zombie. All right? I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw today. If you did, let me know down in the comments with a thumbs up and a great comment saying, "You are so awesome, Kasanas," because that would make me happy. All right? If you didn't like it, well, then give me a thumbs down and let me know why. If you give me a thumbs down, please tell me why. Just don't randomly give me a thumbs down, because I can't guess why you don't like things. Maybe this morning you found a hair in your porridge and you're like, "I'm angry, I don't like your video." All right? Tell me what you don't like so I can actually make corrections. All right, guys? Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below, and if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.